Hey guys, welcome to Bulletproof Your Back Live. Dr. Klein here with Dr. Daniel. Had a good time today. Lots of people came to the office, so we're still going strong. But if we do get closed down, we want to arm you guys with some information on how to take care of yourselves and how to get out of pain if you're dealing with something like that. I would check out the video, Roadmap to Wellness. It's going to look like this. It's on our education tab on our website. It's going to talk to you about this little guy here, foundation training. So at times when we're lapsing into pain, we need stability as well as getting the restrictions removed. You know, massage, chiropractic, we're breaking up tight muscles and restrictions. Then we need strength as well. We need to strengthen those weakened muscles that help hold our spine in that lengthened position. So foundation training is all about your hips and your feet supporting your spine. Now a lot of people struggle with the free videos because standing. And sometimes the best way to start is on the ground on a mat, letting gravity work with you instead of trying to work against gravity. So that's what we've been working on in our foundation training classes so far. So for those of you who have come, this is going to be a good review for you, but we're also going to dive into some new information after we do a little review, a little warm up here with Dr. Daniel. So we'll get him on his back. We're going to go over an anchored bridge. So do a normal bridge for me, Daniel.
Okay.
So normal bridge, one problem is the neck kind of flattens out, so we're supposed to have a nice C shape in the neck. So anchor bridge, same idea, we're just kind of going out here a little bit more. So this is going to involve the hip joint a little bit. Anchoring is the idea of pulling the hips into the socket, so when without even lifting your hips, just try to press that way. So now his spine, we have all the curves we want. We don't want to flatten out the lower back, we don't want to flatten out the neck. We're actually trying to flatten out the mid-back a little bit, but the whole goal is when we're pressing, lengthening the spine. So you can feel a little bit in the neck there when you do that. You're pushing away from your heels. A little easier. Gravity's pushing down this way, helping you out. We're always doing the measuring stick hands. So that's this position where his thumbs are on his ribs. His pinky is on what we call the ASIS, part of your pelvis. So what he's doing there is he's sucking in. So we're going to go over breathing here. So when he breathes, not only is he getting vertical with his breath, he's getting a little horizontal. He's expanding that rib cage lengthwise and vertically up here. So you could try both at first. Get lengthened. Get wide when you breathe. Then try both. Inhaling, pulling up. So you could try the standing for now if you want, guys. I know it's hard to lay down and watch a video. It's one of the pitfalls here, especially when you're doing the foundation training videos. So maybe just watch, learn, try later. So one good thing about the floor is a lot of us breathe from our shoulders. Here, Dr. Dan's shoulders are glued to the floor. So that keeps them locked to the rib cage. So when he breathes, he's going to have a nice long neck. I can feel he's got good curve there in the neck. He's pressing this way. Let's put the big toes together, but we're still going to keep those knees apart. Maybe a little less bend here in the knees, because we don't want that motion really coming from the knee. It's more that it's coming from that hip, the hips turning in. Most of us, our hips turn out, so we're trying to pull the hips in a little bit. We don't want to go knock-kneed either, but it's a little squeeze from the adductors right here. Next, what he's going to do is he's going to keep the tightness here. It's the engagement of that iliopsoas, that hip flexor. And then he's going to lift just a little bit into the bridge. Tough, right? Mm-hmm. Just that little bit is enough to really work your neck and everything. And he's still having good curve there in the neck. You can try to lift the head with it a little bit, just like a tiny, not even a centimeter, the back of the skull off the ground. If he's strong with this, he can bring his hands up into what we call a sphere of tension. So he's raising up, keeping a broad chest, keeping that subtle bridge, pulling that overhead, squeezing the elbows. Breathe. So in class we have 3 rules. One is breathe, thinking about that decompression breathing. So you can exhale, kind of relax, let yourself back. So if you want to do like 10 reps on this, what you do is you inhale, exhale, bring the arms up as you raise that bridge. So it's less about getting really high with the bridge, but really getting tension all throughout the body. Feel that? Uh-huh. You can see how it brings out his imbalances a little bit too. You're going to notice that if you watch yourself. It's twisting a little bit. He just worked all day. He needs an adjustment. Squeezing. Try not to raise the head. Keep it on the ground for right now, because that head's going to want to raise to help you out. If anything, I'd say tilt back a little bit like that, just to keep that curve. It's about lengthening the neck, not driving it forward, but not flattening it out either. It's that driving up. You can see those neck muscles working in the front there as he does this. So this is the anchored bridge. Maybe you're just working on the bridge portion. If you're really strong, like Dr. Dan here, you can throw the arms in. It's really tough. Get a little red, you can see the veins popping. Feel that all throughout the spine. Rule number 2 is if there's pain, you have pain when you're doing this, reset. You want uncomfortable stretching, but we don't want pain, especially in the lower back, because that's an area we use to bend a lot, and we kind of teach ourselves to bend from our low back all day long and round, and it just irritates it over time. Let's flip them over onto the stomach. Again, it's just starting on the ground. It's a little bit, it's not easier. These are actually really hard exercises, but it's easy to learn. So same thing here. He can't really do the measuring stick hands, but he can think about it. So he's tightening, because when he lifts his head, go ahead and relax for a second. Lift your head up, and just lift your chest up a little bit. See how he pinches that lower back a little bit, and this is weak. That's not what we want there. So go back down. Before you raise, think about the measuring stick hands. You're tightening that hip. If you look down low, you can see there's a little bit of space there. The quads are staying down to the ground. His feet are tucked. This is what we call the prone press. So he's going to bring the arms back, both of them here, and then bring them up overhead. Make a little triangle with both fingers there. Again, he's keeping that neck curve, almost like a little kid when they're first learning to crawl. They're looking up. That helps create that natural cervical curve. That's what we want there. If this is too hard to do, and you're really going to feel it at the top. So when he's coming down, he's, remember, roll on, breathe, driving up. That's when he's going to get that little shake, trying to get those hands together. If that's too tough, you can just go here. Claw the ground just like the sphere of tension. So you're gripping the ground, trying to lift the chest, lift the head, just extending a little bit. But it's the whole spine extending, not just from here up. That's the big thing. We're not going cobra. You know, in yoga, we're not bending here, right? Because we don't want to distort any spinal curves. We want to naturally decompress everything, naturally lift, using all these little muscles in the spine that really help give us strength, open up the joints, take pressure off your nerve roots, which really helps your gut, your immune system, everything. Work. Try to go a little higher. Gripping the ground. His feet are pulling. It's like his skull is driving away from his tailbone, creating length. So try to hold that and breathe, Daniel. Big breath in. Talk a lot about the serratus muscles. These are here. That's where you should kind of feel that. Like the Chinese finger trap. They're opening, pulling that spine, that rib cage apart. Awesome. So we went over the 8-point plank yesterday. Why don't you try that for us? So elbows back a little bit. Going to keep wrist and elbow in a straight line. Lifting, getting the hips off the ground. Knees, feet, elbows. It's like a half plank, but it's the hardest half plank you've ever done. Breathe. Good. He's getting his workout today. All right, relax. So let's try to do some of that stuff standing. We'll get you up now. Watch how he gets up. Look at that. Into the squat. Perfect. So let's try just a good morning, but we're going to keep it really stiff from the hips. So same thing, we're going to do the measuring stick hands, get really tall, and just think about hinging back there, keeping your spine really straight, motion in the hips. So we don't want to extend, which is more my problem. My back always wants to extend like this, or I've lost that engagement. Dr. Daniel tends to do the opposite. He always wants to tuck. He's doing really good here. He's keeping that curve in the low back. Do what you normally do, where you kind of flatten out the low back. That's the opposite problem. We all tend to have to deal with different things. So somewhere in the middle. We want that length. So I'm not extending too much from the back. We're keeping the motion in the hips. Now this is much harder standing because we're so used to using our spine. Now we're trying to isolate it, keep it long and strong, keep that motion in the hips. And this is that anchoring we did before, the anchor in the bridge, locking those hips into place, into the socket if you will, isolating that motion. So try hinging again. Now throw your arms up. And this is where he's going to feel not only the stretch here in the hamstring, but also, you can even see it. Look at those muscles stretching. So these are the rector muscles, which tend to hold us back in this position all day. And that's the broken foundation, where the hips have traveled in front of the spine. They're no longer supporting the spine. If you take one message home, that's it. So he's driving the arms up. It's almost like anti-yoga, if you will. We're trying to find the tension earlier in the position. So if you find that tension, that's kind of actually pretty deep for foundation training. So try to find the tension a little bit earlier. Find call it. And the wall is where you're really stretching the tight muscle, and the weak muscle is engaged, and you shake that tremor going on. Got it there?
A little bit.
So chest high, breathing in this position. As you shift your weight back, you'll notice your feet grab the ground, and that's really important too. Getting those 3 points of contact, big toe, ball of the little toe, and the heel. And as you pull your weight back, you notice, oh, I'm going to fall backwards. You're shifting your weight backwards. That's where you want it. Pulling in, hinging at the hips, finding that wall of tension, that shake there. Feet are gripping the ground, hamstrings, not the low back, but all through here, diaphragm area. All right, so we're going to go through some videos now, torture Dr. Dane a little bit more. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them there. We'll answer. But we're working through core elements, part 2. A little bit more standing stuff to help you get this idea of hinging. Need some water?
Okay.
Helps if I turn the volume on, I guess.
Once you understand what it feels like to decompress your body through anchoring and decompression breathing, it's time to apply these principles to movement. One of the most essential, though often ignored, natural human movements is hinging at the hips. As the central joint of your body, your hips are your center of gravity and the primary fulcrum of your movement. Thus, hinging is the most basic function foundation training develops. Due to lifestyles and weakness, we might relegate the movement the hips are meant to do to other parts of the body.
This is your break time.
When this happens regularly, the body is pulled into incorrect positions, causing compensation and ultimately adaptations. This can create pain and imbalance and be detrimental to your health. However, remarkable stability comes from using your hips as the central joint of your body. Hinging works best when the torso is decompressed. That's why you learned it first. Once decompressed, your hips can be used effectively as the central fulcrum for nearly any pulling, reaching, lifting, or folding movement. A healthy hip hinge is a sign of strength, poise, and power. Hinging is a very muscular movement that utilizes the large muscles around the hips to stabilize, propel, and decelerate a body in motion. Strengthening these muscles through hinging, more powerful, more resilient body. Both decompression and hinging help to strengthen your muscle chains, your body's primary stability system. If your muscle chains are not doing their job, the secondary system, your skeletal structure, steps in, and over time, this is when we see real problems. As you progress through activities 1 and 2, keep your muscle system in the front of your mind at all times. Focusing on your muscles will go a long way in helping you become stronger and more capable. Each time you hinge, whether standing on one leg or two, you will be lengthening the backside of your body under tension, pulling your hips back behind your heels, keeping your knees unlocked and your spine stable and decompressed. As with a simple door hinge, movement should only occur at the fulcrum, or in this case, at your hips. The spine stays long and strong as you hinge. It's important to remind yourself that movement occurs at the hips only and not at the back. There is a mild knee bend to help maintain effective length in the hamstrings and to keep the primary support in the posterior chain of muscles rather than in the knee joint. The direction of both the knees and hips in a hip hinge is backward, so that the knees do not come forward over the toes. When successfully completing a hip hinge, your body's weight will be absorbed through your heels.
Whew. We're going to move on here in a second, but I thought that was a good little dynamic to show you what the goal is, just repeating what I said, probably in a little clearer, succinct way. So we're going to move through just some different patterns of how to really understand, okay, this anchoring thing when standing. It's really tough to get, but once you got it, it's like riding a bike, not only applying it to foundation training, but CrossFit, riding, or literally riding that we like to do, especially when we're quarantined, right?
Begin by standing tall and step your feet out a bit wider than shoulder width, while keeping the outside lines of your feet parallel. Grab the ground with your feet and anchor your lower body. Bring your hands to the measuring stick hand position and pull your chin back as you lift your chest up. Take a decompression inhale and maintain that length as you exhale by tightening your abdominals. Begin pulling your hips back behind your heels without letting your low back flex. Your knees should be slightly unlocked with your weight in your heels. Keep your chin back and chest up, feeling your low back working and the muscles of your hips supporting you. Extend your arms back, externally rotating at the shoulders, coming into the long wing arm position, and take another decompression breath. Bring your hands forward into a sphere of tension at the level of your chest. Take a couple decompression breaths here, making sure your spine is long and your weight is primarily in your heels. Keep your chin pulling back and bring your arms up so your hands are diagonally above your forehead. Continue decompression breathing, getting long and expansive in your ribcage. Keep your chin back, chest up, and your weight in your heels. Keep your feet pulling toward each other in a strong anchor and your hips pulling back. Bring your arms back to long wing arm position. Then come back to measuring sticks. As you stand up, bring your hands back down and relax.
Whew. So one tricky thing I've learned, and foundation training is like that. I've been doing it almost 5 years. It's like, oh, I've been doing that wrong for 5 years. And you're going to notice that, and that's okay. One thing is coming up, because I notice is actually the hardest part. We think like getting down into that tension is hard because you're using these muscles, but you're actually using those same muscles to lift you. That's what I notice is even harder, because I just want to kind of, like you're doing a deadlift and just do that. The hip lifting with that length. Even just doing those good mornings we started at is really tough. Where you're hinging down and then also pulling yourself back up without letting that go. So think about that when you're doing it. It's that negative that's where a lot of injury happens too. It's maybe not going down where the problem is. As soon as you try to lift back up, maybe you even have good form getting that object. As soon as you get a lift, it's round or you extend. Both are not good for the spine. And we preach this stuff because we see it all day on the tables, where people are locked up, where the compression is. We know. So trust us. Want some contaminated water?
Begin by standing tall and step your right foot forward, left foot back in a split stance with about a 3 to 5 foot stride length and your back heel a few inches off the floor. Make sure the outside lines of your feet are parallel and both knees are unlocked. Square your hips up and bring your hands to the measuring stick hand position with your elbows wide. Pull your chin back, chest up, and take a decompression breath to lengthen your torso. Without letting your front knee move, pull your chest forward as your front hip hinges back, shifting weight to your front heel. Extend your arms back into the long wing arm position and take another decompression breath. Bring your hands forward into a sphere of tension at the level of your chest. Take a couple decompression breaths here, making sure your spine is long and your weight is primarily in your front heel. Your front knee should be behind your ankle and you should feel tension in your front hamstrings. Keep your chin pulling back and bring your arms up so your hands are diagonally above your forehead. Take another couple decompression breaths, getting long and expansive in your ribcage on the inhale. Maintain that length and expansion on your exhale. Bring your arms back to long wing arm position for another decompression breath. Then come back to measuring sticks as you stand up tall and step your back foot forward to switch sides. Step your right foot back into a split stance with about a 3 to 5 foot stride length and your back heel off the floor. Make sure the outside lines of your feet are parallel and both knees are unlocked. Square your hips up and bring your hands to the measuring stick hand position with your elbows wide. Pull your chin back, chest up, and take a decompression breath to lengthen your torso. Without letting your front knee move, pull your chest forward as your front hip hinges back, shifting weight to your front heel. Extend your arms back into the long wing arm position and take another decompression breath. Bring your hands forward into a sphere of tension at the level of your chest. Take a couple decompression breaths here, making sure your spine is long and your weight is primarily in your front heel. Your front knee should be behind your ankle and you should feel tension in your front hamstrings.
Oh yeah.
Keep your chin pulling back and bring your arms up so your hands are diagonally above your forehead. Take another couple decompression breaths, getting long and expansive in your ribcage on the inhale. Maintain that exhale. Bring your arms back to long wing arm position for another decompression breath. Then come back to measuring sticks as you stand up tall and step your back foot forward and relax.
So another thing I've noticed, and originally what I was seeking, because I had broke both my heels, I had so much foot pain, and I was trying all these foot exercises, and essentially it was this that helps. But what I really noticed is my feet are just aching. Not a bad way, not like joint ache, but it's like these muscles I'm not using. So as I'm out of breath, I'm shaking. I've been doing this a long time, so the more you do it, the harder it becomes, the more out of breath you get just from 5 minutes a day doing this stuff. So it should be hard to do, because the idea is this is rule number 3. I didn't tell you rule number 3 is always lengthen. So if you ever feel like you're compressing to get into a position to get farther, no, lengthen. Drive up, get tall before you progress. Decompress before you compress, or progress. Decompress before you, decompress before you compress, but also decompress before you progress into the position. So lengthening, I'm squeezing the floor. This is a lot of stuff you went over in part 1. Getting the hips underneath you, chest tall, but not extension, right? We don't want to, a lot of people think big breath this way, pulling the shoulder blades back, but we've disengaged this. We're pinching the lower back. Maybe you're helping your neck out, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So it's everything together. I actually get those hips first, then drive that neck up last without flattening the neck out too much. So you don't want to reverse that curve in the neck either, and that shoves the hips forward. Like you said, you don't want that knee passing in front of the ankle. Got a few more in you?
Sure.
All right. I'll probably give out before you do. Contaminated water.
Begin by standing tall and step your feet out to a stance wider than shoulder width, making sure that the outside lines of your feet are. Hands to the measuring stick hand position and pull your chin back as you lift your chest up. Grab the ground with your feet and anchor your lower body. Take a decompression breath and focus on lengthening and expanding your rib cage away from your hips. Begin pulling your hips back behind your heels, coming into the knees slightly unlocked. Extend your arms back, externally rotating at the shoulders into the long wing arm position. Keep your chin pulling back and take another decompression breath. Next, bring your hands into a sphere of tension at the level of your chest as you pull your hips back a little further. Then bend your elbows, bringing your hands by your shoulders into the short wing arm position. Pull your hips back a little further to load the posterior chain. Then press up through your heels to come back forward. Repeat this hinging process several times while staying decompressed. Keep the movement in your hips. Your knees should be unlocked but should not bend any further throughout the hinge.
just to pull yourself up is the big thing there.
Keep your chin back, chest up, and your weight in your heels. Bring your arms back to the long wing position, then bring them forward to a sphere of tension as you hinge your hips back. This counterbalance allows you to further load the posterior chain without losing form. After a few, come back to the long wing position for another decompression breath as you pull your chin back. Then come back to measuring sticks and stand up for one last decompression breath. Then let your hands come down and relax.
Let's explain what the posterior chain is. And it's not actually what you saw stretching on Dr. Daniel before. Posterior chain is these muscles that run in the canal. So I would consider posterior serratus, inferior and superior part of that, but it's these little pink ones, multifidus, interspinalis, intertransversarii. They're what's called the intertransverse muscles. So they're just in between the spinous and the transverse process, little deep guys that just pull and open up the disc space, the nerve space. So the posterior chain is all those together at once, opening up. So that way, if we're activating that, we're not going to bend at this lower portion of the spine. A lot of people think they're hinging at the hips, they're bending right here. They're like, I understand why I always have pain down here. That's why. So this should be a very strong, stable structure. Gross dissection, there's lots of ligaments here protecting, holding these joints together. But Dr. Daniel and I are always handing out, what do we call it, the trochanteric belts to help hold these people because they're always damaged, either from sitting, but also people who work out a lot. This is not just about moving, you're moving and moving a little bit better. Let's do about one more video. Dr. Dan's not sweating yet. Questions, leave them below. Hopefully this is loud enough for you guys.
Begin by standing tall and step your right foot forward, left foot back in a split stance, with about a 3 to 5 foot stride length and your back heel off the floor. Make sure the outside lines of your feet are parallel and both knees are unlocked. Square your hips up and bring your hands to the measuring stick hand position with your elbows wide. Pull your chin back, chest up, and take a decompression breath to lengthen your torso. Without letting your front knee move, pull your chest forward as your front hip hinges back, shifting weight to your front heel. Extend your arms back into the long wing arm position and take another decompression breath. Your front knee should be behind your ankle and you should feel tension in your front hamstrings. Bend your elbows, bringing your hands by your shoulders into the short wing arm position.
That should be really tight in your chest, guys.
Decompress, then bring your chest forward more as your front hip hinges back to load the posterior chain. Press through your front heel to release that tension and bring your upper torso back up. Repeat these hinges a few more times. Keep your spine long. Don't let it flex or extend through the movement. Keep your knee stable and in place as you hinge. Next, we'll add some counterbalance by bringing your hands forward into a sphere of tension at the level of your chest. Return to long wing as you come back up. After a few hinges, hold briefly in a woodpecker to decompress. Bring your arms back to long wing, then come back to measuring sticks as you stand up tall and step your back foot forward to switch sides.
Calf's on fire.
Step your right foot back into a split stance with about a 3 to 5 foot stride length and your back heel off the floor. Make sure the outside lines of your feet are parallel and both knees are unlocked. Square your hips up and bring your hands to the measuring stick hand position with your elbows wide. Pull your chin back, chest up, and take a decompression breath to lengthen your torso. Without letting your front knee move, pull your chest forward as your front hip hinges back, shifting weight to your front heel. Extend your arms back into the long wing arm position and take another decompression breath. Your front knee should be behind your ankle and you should feel tension in your front hamstrings. Bend your elbows, bringing your hands by your shoulders into the short wing arm position. Decompress and then bring your chest forward more as your front hip hinges back to load the posterior chain. Press through your front heel to release that tension and bring your upper torso back up. Repeat these hinges a few more times. Keep your spine long, don't let it flex or extend through the movement. Keep your knees stable and in place as you hinge. Next, we'll add some counterbalance by bringing your hands forward into a sphere of tension at the level of your chest. Return to long wing as you come back up. After a few hinges, hold briefly in a woodpecker to decompress. Bring your arms back to long wing, then come back to stand up tall and step your back foot forward and relax.
Whew. So again,
so have you been following along with this work so far?
We'll call it there. But the goal is to give you some ideas what to use with the freebie videos so you're not ending up in more pain, because that's not the goal. So you see that a lot. It's not just doing foundation training, it's applying the principles that we're trying to teach here. And you'll learn it over time. Sometimes your brain is talking to muscles that it might have never talked to in its life. So engage those, keep working with it. Again, try not to get too deep in the position. Sometimes it's safer to find, just work on decompression breathing. Because that's the biggest thing, is learning how to breathe in a decompression stance, not using your shoulders. You notice in a lot of these positions, we're pulling the arms down. So if you notice that it's really easy to do this, you've used your shoulder blades, you've extended a little bit. If we get the decompression right, as soon as we unravel into that long breathing position, it should feel like tough, like you're just pulling against weight. It's really hard. So when you come up here, also kind of shaky this whole time, because we're not using the spine. If I use that spine or the neck or the low back to help my arms all day long, that lines up with what we see on the table a lot. If you ever had me work on your shoulder blades, I'm just holding your shoulder blade here. Let's show them quick. Why don't you hop on there? A little demonstration. So normally, he's got pretty good motion, right? Not too hard, right? But is he using the back a little bit? Yeah, it's just subtle, using the neck a little bit. If I kind of just pin his shoulder blade down, say, hey, that's not moving. Now we're forcing just glenohumeral to work, which is what we're trying to do in foundation training. Remember the prone press? A little harder, Daniel? Notice that it's almost like a restricted feel. That's kind of what you're trying to generate in foundation training, where everything else is locked down. You're training this to be a strong, stable structure. Forcing that isolated motion in this joint, not the shoulder blade, not all this, where that's easy, but locking that down. So that's why that's feel that stretch in the front a little bit. Rotator cuff as well. Rotator cuff's job is to hold that humerus into the socket. It's his main job. It assists with motion, but mainly it's to help all four muscles pull in. So a lot of times you don't realize how rounded we are because we do this. Foundation has shifted forward. So I don't look necessarily so bad. That might even look like good posture to some people. But ear, shoulder, hip, heel do not line up. And we're going to notice it as soon as you're laying down. If there's restriction, if there's pain, you're probably not doing something right. And that's good news. That means you got something to work on. Stop blaming mom's genetics on your back pain. Work on foundation training. Same idea is going to happen in the hip. You have a rotator cuff of the hip. I won't show you that one, but its job is to do the same thing. Hold it in the socket to force isolated motion. So both those things should be happening in this foundation training stuff. It should be rigid, restricted when you're doing this. You're finding that tension early. You're not shifting into yoga mode where you're trying to get super deep into a position, compressing your spine at the same time. You need both. Essentially, your spine needs motion, but it needs strength. And we're seeing more and more in our culture, we're missing that strength component. You could be big and strong and have weakness in the posterior chain. A lot of athletes coming in and getting worked on too. It's not just move more, it's move smarter. Work smarter, not harder. Right, Dr. Dan?
Yeah.
Anything we'd like to add, sir?
Great.
He's going to take a nap for an hour. Any questions, leave them below. There's freebie videos on the Foundation Training website. Hopefully this information will help you attack those better. Stay away from the 12-minute Live Strong workout until you spend a good 2 months working on this stuff so you don't hurt yourself. We have our own playlist called the Get Out of Pain Challenge, A lot of similar stuff. The prone press was in there, the one where he was laying down. Those are day 6 and 7. I suggest you work on those, and I'll probably link that below. Again, check out the Roadmap to Wellness. Talks about massage, chiropractic, and foundation training, and how like massage is working the muscle. Chiropractic, we're working the joints. What about the weak muscles? It's your job, right? Essentially, I like to say my job is to fix this, get you straight, but as far as the distortion in this direction, the lateral plane we call it, that's your job. Get that strength of the spine. We can't do that for you. Only you can prevent back pain, forest fires, and honestly, it's really going to help your immune system. I've noticed its dramatic effect with pathological stress. The more I've removed mechanical stress, immune system's done better, energy levels are done better, digestion's done better. It's not just about my foot pain. As I strive to correct these issues, other things got corrected, but it was the whole body approach that the principles of foundation teaches. There's not anything special about these exercises. You probably noticed that all these exercises we did turn to the same principles. Lengthen, breathe, and if it hurts, don't do it. Easy, right? You remember those, you'll be good. Thanks, guys, and good luck. We're all praying for you out there. We're trying to stay open here at Rimrock Wellness Center. So come in, talk to us. We're working on these exercises, ask us questions. We're always open to working you through a little quick 1-minute drill, pull up a video and work with you and try to get you out of pain. So you'll notice your adjustments will last much longer. If there's stability, it's going to stay in place. And also, if you're coming in and nothing's ever moving, that'll help us too. Sometimes a whole portion of the spine will be out of place. It's like, we can't really correct that, right? I can have Dr. Daniel jump on it, but it's not going to move unless we get some strength, get that open, start working those weaknesses as well, so we can attack the tightnesses and help you get better results with your foundation training. All right, peace out.